Welcome, and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Soraya Correa, the President and Chief Executive Officer of National Industries for the Blind. Soraya, thank you for joining me.
Terry, thank you for having me today.
Let's start with just kind of an overview about NIB, who you are and what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. The National Industries for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that was established in 1938 through the Jarvis-Wagner-O'Day Act, and its focus is primarily helping individuals who are blind or visually impaired find employment. That's basically the core mission of what we do. And we do this through multiple ways. First of all, we work with the Ability One Commission. That's the federal side of the program, where we obtain federal contracts, we produce products, services, and these are products and services that are produced by individuals who are blind or visually impaired. So like any other manufacturing operation, think Walmart, Amazon, whatever, we're the same thing, except that we hire folks who are blind. And what's interesting is we have to maintain a ratio of about 75% have to be blind individuals to work. But they work with sighted individuals and they work in these factories. And I got to tell you, Terry, it's the most amazing thing you'll ever see.
I bet. There's got to be a huge sense of accomplishment just to see these people achieve their goals.
It is. I joined the organization in March of 2024. And one of the things that I've done over the last, 18 months is go out and visit a lot of our nonprofit agencies. We have about 100 nonprofit agencies that are affiliated with our nonprofit organization. So those are the folks that actually do the work. We work directly with the Ability One Commission and federal customers to obtain contracts, and then these organizations go out and do the work. And I've gone out and visited these organizations and seen people do the work, from manufacturing products to assembling products to making uniforms, whatever it is, watching these people do the work. And they rely on technology, but what's amazing is the skill that they have, the ability they have to overcome the challenges that would be affiliated with being visually impaired to get these things done.
I want to know more about that, but first I want to back up a little bit because you've mentioned the Ability One Commission a couple of times. Tell us more about Ability One and that whole ecosystem, because NIB is just a part of it.
Correct. The Ability One program is a federal program. That's what was established with the Jarvis-Wagner-O'Day Act. And what the Ability One program does, it has two certified nonprofit agencies, one that deals with blind and visually impaired, that's us, National Industries for the Blind, and then one that deals with other disabilities, because there's a multitude of other disabilities. That organization is called Source America. Between the two organizations, we work with the Ability One Commission to identify employment opportunities for individuals who have disabilities. How we do that is through federal government contracts. So we each have associated nonprofit organizations or agencies. They're actually nonprofit businesses, is the way I like to describe them. They're basically contractors who have a nonprofit status, and they either manufacture products or provide services. They're the individuals who actually hire the individuals with disabilities. Source America is a little bit larger than us because they deal primarily in services, and we are a little bit smaller. We have about 100 nonprofit agencies. We do primarily products, but we're also in the services business.
So National Industries for the Blind is really a conglomeration of a variety of organizations. So you're sort of the orchestrator.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we work directly with the Commission to help to ensure that our nonprofit agencies are complying with program requirements, meeting the intent and spirit of the regulations, providing the proper reporting, et cetera.
So let's dig a little bit into that compliance. When you've got 100 subcontractors, it can be really tough to make sure that everybody's meeting the same standards, and that's not just quality, but also working conditions. How do you orchestrate all of that?
Sure. So the way it actually works is most of the contracts are entered into between the nonprofit agency and the federal government agency. We just make sure that the assignment is made, meaning that they work directly with the agencies. In some cases, we might be the prime contractor if there are multiple nonprofit agencies, but generally the nonprofit agencies work directly with the government. Then what we do is monitor the work. We monitor to ensure that they are meeting the requirements, the standards that are set by the Ability One Commission. We provide reporting, we go in and check. We also run programs to support them in their work. So whether it's a loan program, a grant program, we try to help the nonprofit agencies and make sure that they are successful. And all along, what we're making sure is that they maintain that 75% direct labor ratio, meaning that 75% of their workforce is blind or visually impaired.
So you're kind of a matchmaker, an enabler, a
Exactly.
coordinator. How do you keep all of that straight?
Well, it's challenging, but we have a great staff that really knows these areas. They focus not only on the compliance aspects, but the missions of the agencies that we're supporting to make sure that we're delivering the right products and services, that our people are adequately trained to do that. So we provide some of those services. A lot of our nonprofit agencies do some of the training themselves. And I think it's one of the things that I really think is important to point out is this is one of the best examples of a private-public partnership, if you think about it, because we're representing the Ability One Commission. We're actually the central nonprofit agency, Source America and ourselves. We are there to ensure that the work gets done, to ensure that these nonprofit agencies conform to the requirements of the Ability One Commission and the regulations that they issue.
So you mentioned that you and Source America work with the Ability One Commission to secure government contracts, and you talked a little bit about the kinds of materials that you provide. Tell us a little bit more about how that contract process works.
Sure. So if a customer identifies a particular product or service that they're interested in, we take a look at that product or service, and we work with the Ability One Commission to put that product or service on the procurement list. A procurement list that is maintained by the Ability One Commission. They have to approve it to make sure that it goes on that list. Once that product or service is put on the list, in accordance with federal acquisition regulations, the government agency can then go buy directly, can buy that product directly from one of our nonprofit agencies, or depending on the situation, it could be through us, through a contract agreement. That's the core capability. It sounds really simple. It's actually fairly complex because we have to evaluate the capability of the nonprofit agency to build that product or service, to make sure that they can accomplish the work in accordance with the government specifications. Generally speaking, our products are commercial products. It's very rare that you're building something very unique, but we do a little bit of everything. We do pens, we do paper, we do janitorial and sanitation products, paper products. We make aircraft parts. We make equipment for other organizations. And then we also do something called kitting, where you're assembling products into a kit so that the agency can then deploy it, for resources. We make uniforms. We make a lot of uniforms for the military. In fact, DoD is one of our largest customers.
So I can imagine your procurement background comes in really handy here as you're managing all of this. What have been some of the contractual challenges that you've looked at and tried to tackle in your tenure?
So as always in acquisition, it's efficiency. And when I talk about this process of adding products to the procurement list, it can be a slow process. It can take long. It depends on what the product or service is. It depends on the agency itself, the kind of information and documentation that we can gather from the nonprofit agencies, et cetera. So sometimes the process can be a lengthy one. That's really probably the biggest challenge. The contracts themselves are not that challenging. One of the things that we do focus on is making sure that we're not displacing small businesses, right? Because you want to be in balance, right? In the federal government, I'm going to put on my procurement hat, right? We have to conform to the Ability One program, but we also have to meet all the small business standards and all the other requirements that are set forth in the regulations. So it's a delicate balance, and we have to do that homework and make sure we understand the arena that we're playing in and how well we play in that arena.
Do you have small businesses that come to you and say, I'd really like to be part of the NIB ecosystem?
Small businesses can't be nonprofit agencies because it's only nonprofit agencies that can play, but we can partner. We do have a lot of commercial partners because we do a lot of commercial work as well. As I mentioned, we have the government side, which is the Ability One program, and that's what the CNAs are actively involved in. But we also monitor work on the commercial side, and we do enter into agreements with commercial customers. We provide product services for commercial organizations. We work with quite a few distributors and wholesalers as well. So we not only sell our products directly, but we sell through wholesalers, distributors, and through a variety of contract vehicles that GSA has established, that Army have established for common goods for the agencies that they support.
So the GSA focus right now about central procurement of common goods, is that a good thing for NIB?
It is. I think it can be. I'm hoping that GSA will consider standing up a procurement vehicle for Ability One as they're looking at consolidating buys and looking at best-in-class contracts and category management. I'm hoping that we can work out something where we perhaps do something for the Ability One program so that when customers want to buy Ability One products, they can go directly to that vehicle.
And how do the agencies know whether or not that's a procurement option they want? Do they have goals, targets?
So they don't have goals. One of the things that we have been working on is trying to get a 1% goal through the Department of Defense, primarily. We started with them in the NDAA. We've been working on that for several years. But what they do have is they stood up what's called the Ability One Representative Program, ABORs. I always have to remember the acronyms. What the ABOR program is think like a small business specialist. It's a person that works within the agency that is very familiar with the program, that tries to find opportunities, that helps contracting officers identify capabilities that we could perform for them, and then introduce us, and hopefully we can enter into a contract with them. A lot of the agencies have pledged to use the vehicle and set goals based on pledges, but it isn't a mandatory goal like the small business goals are. So we continue to work towards that. Our goal is 1%, which is fairly minimal, from someone who comes from the procurement world. And it would be helpful to have that goal, but certainly we're out here continually working with agencies, and we are always looking at new lines of business that we can get into. So, for example, and I didn't even know this I knew that we did contract closeout services. I didn't know the extent to which we did contract closeout services. But we provide many professional services, whether it's call centers, contact centers, I'm sorry, my brain is fried, administrative services, contract management support. We do a lot of contract closeout, which is an area that government is always looking for support in. So, and we're in the IT business. Obviously we know accessibility, right? Many people focus on 508 compliance. 508 compliance isn't always the same as accessibility. So we know quite a bit about that. We provide a lot of different services. Many folks don't understand that being blind or visually impaired doesn't mean you can't do the job. It just means you do it a little bit differently.
But there's got to be some assistive technology, some sorts of adaptations that you must help them bring into the workforce. Tell us about that.
Sure. So there are several adaptive technologies out there that are in use. We actually have experts in our area that support and help test that technology and teach people how to use that technology. There's one called JAWS, there's one called ZoomText. And what these technologies do is enable them to see what's on the screen. I'm going to say it that way. It talks to them. It tells them what they're seeing on that computer screen. It actually describes it for them. The best way that I can say this is somebody who has vision. When I've seen demonstrations of this technology, it talks really fast. It's in their ear. You and I would never understand it. It sounds like blah, 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 blah. It's telling them what's on the screen, where it is on the screen. It helps them navigate through the work. Similarly, for production capabilities, they have a lot of equipment that talks to them. So if they're running heavy machinery, it will tell them, where to position the guide, how to position the guide, what buttons to hit, how to set up to do something, whether it's producing paper, making equipment, or even setting up containers to receive liquids like for janitorial products, etc. So they have a lot of technical capability that's built into equipment and systems, and then we train people on how to use them. And depending on the work that they're doing, some people who are fully blind will only do certain tasks, whereas people who are perhaps visually impaired, have some sight, can do other tasks. But the point is, there's a lot of technologies out there, and our nonprofit agencies are constantly working with folks who develop these products to make sure that the products are accessible, that they meet the needs of the people, that they're properly tested, and that they're properly used in their organizations.
So that's got to be an expensive proposition for a nonprofit to bring in that kind of specific, specialized manufacturing equipment. How does NIB support the development of the capacity, the manufacturing capacity?
So that's a great question. So first of all, In some cases, it's expensive. Sometimes the technology is not as expensive as it sounds, and a lot of organizations out there want to work with you because it's something that you're adapting to a piece of equipment that you would be using in manufacturing anyway. But we offer loan programs, we have grant programs, especially for our nonprofit agencies that are starting up in a line of business or expanding on a line of business and creating greater capability. So we do offer programs to support them. In addition to that, a lot of these nonprofit agencies, in addition to the work that they do from a business standpoint, they also provide community services. So sometimes they do fundraisers and things like that because they're providing services to support the individuals who are blind or visually impaired in their communities. Many of them have eye care professionals at their facilities. They sell equipment. They also provide training on how to adapt to blindness because a lot of folks become blind later in life. And so they need to learn how to adapt to living in an environment, you know, be it in an apartment or in a house, how to wash clothes, how to cook for themselves, etc. So these organizations are somewhat dual-hatted, that they are serving their community as well as providing a business, and that business feeds into that service that they provide to the community.
It must be challenging for an individual who has a visual impairment to have so much accessibility support at work and maybe not in their private lives.
And that's one of the reasons we want to make sure these people are employed, so that they have that capability to bring this accessibility support into their home. As I mentioned, a lot of these nonprofit agencies work with these individuals who are blind to help them adapt to the environment, to make sure that their environments are set up properly. So when I've gone out and visited nonprofit agencies, I've even seen where they have sidewalks to teach you how to navigate the streets, right? What a park might look like, what it might feel like to walk through a park, to be on a curb that perhaps doesn't have, the little raised areas that you could feel the difference, the sounds, what the machines sound like. So our nonprofit agencies are engaged in the community and providing that level of service to make sure that individuals who are blind or visually impaired, and on the disability side they do the same thing, that they have the tools, the resources that they need to adapt to their environment and to the world that they're living in.
That's such a great service, and I just
incredible.
love it. And speaking of services, how does NIB fit in with the current administration's focus on Made in America, inclusive growth? I mean, you're talking about providing services to individuals, but those individuals may be able to provide services back.
You got it. We're pretty excited about the focus on Made in America because we are Made in America. We make our products here. We are employing Americans with disabilities to come and make these products. In fact, we employ about 5,000, on the Ability One program side, nearly 40,000 people across the companies that we're supporting are people who are blind or visually impaired. But about 5,000 of them are through the Ability One program, of which a little over 450 are veterans. And we bring them the capability to work here and build products here for our troops, for our government. This is a source of pride for these individuals because otherwise they might not be able to serve the government. So they're excited about doing it, and they are Americans. And here's the thing, when they're working for us, they're earning at least minimum wage or better, depending on the position that they're in. They have promotion opportunity. They can go on to build their careers, take care of their families. They become tax-paying citizens, and they're not relying on government for financial support. And all of our products, we label our products, we identify our products. In fact, our brand is Skillcraft. That is a brand that is owned and controlled by us. All of our products are made here in the United States. There may be products that we may have to import from TAA compliant countries, but we follow the same supply chains that are out there for other industries, for other companies. So it's not unique what we do in the sense that we're building commercial products and commercial resources, and we rely on the same supply chains, the same wholesale and distributor chains that are out there. We do some distribution services ourselves. One of the services that we provide is logistics services. We actually do logistics service and warehousing for some of our customers.
Well, you have some pretty interesting statistics on the ROI for every dollar spent with Ability One. Tell us about those.
Yeah. So organization Mathematica in 2023 conducted a study, and for every dollar spent in the Ability One program, we returned $2.66 to the government through creating these people who are taxpayers and are productive members of their society. They're out spending money, educating their children, but more importantly, they're not relying on the Social Security or the money that the government would be otherwise bringing. And I think that's phenomenal, $2.66. You know, sometimes people criticize that they'll say, well, you pay a little bit more for, contracts through the Ability One. Well, first of all, I have to be an honest broker that I'm a best value person. I think value, you know that about me. Low bid is not kind of where I want to go, especially with my government. That's just kind of the way I view it. But when you consider it's probably more economical, you really are, you're bringing these people into the workforce, you're giving them an opportunity to work. I can't tell you of a better, more dedicated workforce that wants to be there, that wants to do these jobs, and you are actually saving money, because the difference between that 266 is really important. It's really important to think about that. And here's the thing, it's the economic independence of people. It's the American dream. I don't want to go Pollyanna on you, but this is what we're here to do. And, it's one of the things that attracted me to the position, by the way. It's knowing that I would be serving a community that really wants to support the government, that wants to work, that wants to do this, and they're Americans, and that's what we should be doing. And I'm excited by the President's Made in America initiatives because we're a part of that. That's what we do.
So what would you hope that every federal agency or procurement officer and even members of the public understood about NIB's capabilities and impact?
I want them to know that we are businesses just like any other business, except that we employ individuals who sometimes have to overcome certain challenges, but because they do, they're problem solvers. And that's the way I look at it. When you have to overcome challenges, when you have to think about, how am I going to get this done, you start to become very innovative and creative. And we are a team of people that are extremely innovative, extremely creative, extremely excited to support our government. Like I said, go visit any of our nonprofit agencies, walk around and talk to the employees, which I do on a very regular basis. The smiles on their faces, the energy, the enthusiasm, because they're doing something for our country. When they support the warfighter, that first responder, or anyone who uses our products, they're excited about it.
Soraya, this has been a great introduction to NIB. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry.
I'd like to thank Soraya Correa, the President and Chief Executive Officer of National Industries for the Blind. I'm Terry Gerton, and you're listening to Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search NIB.